it's only 17% of borrowers go back to the same lender.
What's called the berry button, big red button that I hit.
Hey, remember that?
Right?
And, oh yeah, I love
everybody, and welcome back to another edition, a very special edition tonight, Madison. A very special edition of Last Wednesday podcast. I hope everybody's got a visual of this and they're just not listening to this. They're go on YouTube, punch this episode in. You don't want to miss who's on our show right now. We have the one and only. Should I say number 45 or should I say
45, 46, 47, all of them. Because I'm the greatest president in the history of presidents, other than the late, great Abe Lincoln, whose wife was maybe a three. And I'm being generous because my wife, Melania, smoking hot. Is she something else? She's incredible.
Now,
Greatest
Chris,
first lady.
How do you rate these women? I mean, you start off by rating somebody.
I just have a gift. And I own 2 beauty pageants, so I know how to judge women so well. No one judges women the way I judge women. I'm like, it's incredible. And I'm on Howard Stern. I'm on Howard Stern all the time. They always ask me to rate the celebrities, and I'm honest. A lot of people are going, she's pretty. She's not pretty.
You like men? You rate men?
Not really. I mean, sometimes somebody's really a handsome guy, like that Chris Hemsworth. The Thor guy.
Yeah.
He's very sore, and women like him, and he's just a big, these guys, you know what? They're not running a country. I don't have time. You imagine how big I would be if I had time to work out, but I don't.
Be huge.
I don't. I'm working on big deals, and I'm running the country. Even not in Washington, I'm still running the country.
So listen, I gotta ask. I mean, obviously you are back on the news. You never seem to leave the news.
Never,
right? I mean, what were you thinking with those documents in Mar-a-Lago, bro?
Well, I was in a rush. There were so many things, because the election was stolen. I thought I would just be saying, we're going to, you got to go. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, get the hell out. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, you got to go. The other guy's coming in. So I just threw, look at this, all this stuff. Look at these books. They're all the same book, but you know what I'm talking about. So I was in a rush. I threw them in. And by the way, I want you to know something. They said they were classified, but I have a standing order because I'm a stable genius. If I think about a folder, I can automatically declassify it just by my stable geniusness. So I automatically declassify. So I take them back to the residence. I take the files, classified, right? Sensitive, top secret, super top secret. Take them back to the residence, mentally think about it, declassify them. And then when I came back in the morning, I would...
John Gotti's got nothing on you, you know that. John Gotti, Teflon Don, he's got nothing on you, Don.
Yeah,
I mean, you're like the real Teflon Don, in my opinion.
I am. You know what? I am truly the Teflon Don. When
I'm like Velcro. Every lawsuit sticks to my ass.
Well, that would happen to people. Someone like you. That would happen to someone like you.
I'm like Velcro Fob.
When I entered the White House, I was involved in 3,500 lawsuits. Can you even imagine that?
No,
can you imagine that? Like you can't because your brain is too small. I'm a stable genius. I can think about all of them. It's really amazing. But enough about that. Let's talk about enough about me. Let's talk about me. How incredible.
Let's talk about. I'm gonna turn over to Madison because we are delighted right now to have Johnny Di Domenico on our show today, which is such a treat, by the way, Johnny. Man, thank you so much for leading us.
I'm gonna put my glasses on, and this will take me out of character.
This is awesome stuff. So Madison, I know she has prepared a intro for you, John, and we did a lot of digging on you. And
I don't even know if we need, what better intro than the man himself.
The man is a genius. There's no doubt about it.
Shit.
I mean, John, I gotta ask you something. I mean, when did you realize you could impersonate people? I mean, that's quite a talent.
I was about 5 years old. I lived in a row home neighborhood in right outside of Philadelphia, but this neighborhood looked like South Philly. It looks like Brooklyn and Queens and all those kind of places, Baltimore. And my neighbors would sit out, and I was a big canned ham, and I could just impersonate these people. But I also had a severe speech impediment.
Okay.
So when I did the voices, I didn't have the impediment. And but I would walk out at 5 years old or 6 and go, now right here in our shoe, the fabulous Garbacho brothers, and that was Ed Sullivan. And the adults would laugh, and I love that I could make anybody laugh, but especially adults. So when I got into first grade, they diagnosed me with multiple personalities. Kidding. They diagnosed me with a severe speech impediment, and then I did 8 years of speech therapy, and I did that 2 times a week for 8 years. And these speech therapists and speech pathologists were so amazing. I still have trouble with certain words, but what they didn't know was, as they were correcting my speech, I was taking it all in and figuring it out how to change and do more voices. To do Austin Powers, baby.
I mean, think about this, Madison. I mean, that's what he just said. I mean, in first grade, he was thinking more than the average loan officer.
Yeah.
I mean,
What's
Well,
that?
what I was going to say is that a lot of people fall into the mortgage world accidentally, or, things happen. So it's interesting that you were able to see something that most people would consider, something that holds you back. And you were like, nope, I'm going to ride with this and I'm going to create a career out of this. So I think that's remarkable in a lot of ways. And one of the things that I was talking with Fobby as we were preparing for this is, as a loan officer, we're wearing a lot of hats. We've got our sales cap on, we've got our psychologist hat on, we're wearing all these hats all day. So I guess one of the things that I wanted to know from someone who professionally impersonates people and everything is, what skill sets do you think is required to wear multiple hats a day?
I think the desire to succeed, you've got to have like that as your basis, I think, and the curiosity, because I'm a performer, I'm a creative, you guys do what you do, but as you do so many other things. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm a at heart, I'm a salesperson, because I have to sell my product, which is me. I have to constantly change and improve my product, which is me. I have to, as things change, I've been doing this since 1986. So when stuff was print and collateral, and so now everything's social media. So then you have to learn social media. You have to learn how to read people in a negotiation, and how what's their reaction, not just to you, but to how you're interacting with them. So it's in today's world, and it doesn't matter if you're a loan officer or you're a comedian or doing what I do or whatever it is. I think we have to, at this time in history, to be much smarter, to be much more open to learning. And I think the main thing that I have is, I'm really curious. I don't poo-poo anything. I'm never like, I don't need social media or whatever. I don't need constant learning. One of the things I thought it was great at the event that I meet you guys at is, people flew themselves there and their companies flew them there to learn, to expand their mind, to network. And I think a lot of people don't do that, and they get stuck in a rut. And
but sorry to cut you off, John, but the other thing about that was a coaching event. So
yeah, it's coaching.
Beckwith has a coaching company, right?
Right, correct.
These loan officers are trying to better themselves by learning from other people, which is a kind of an interesting thing, because I've been in the business for 28 years, right? I know I look very young, John. I mean, it's,
you do. You look amazing. You look absolutely fantastic. What a great head of hair.
Every now and then when you slip that shit in, man, it catches me off guard. I'm like, who said that? But I mean, when I first got the business, nobody was coaching each other. We just like a bunch of roughnecks just trying to charge everybody 10 points and move on. And now these guys, they want to improve and that kind of stuff. But let me ask you another question, John, real quick. It's one thing to get the voice. I got that, right? You got the voice, whatever, right? But the good ones, and you're in that list, right? From what I've seen, right? You guys get the gestures, the mannerisms. What's harder, getting the mannerisms or getting the voice?
Well, I sent you the photos of some of the other characters that I did, Leno and Austin Powers and Dr. Evil. I went to acting school and studied acting, and I'm just a very physical. I'm very lucky because I'm very physical and kind of animated, and I'm very Italian. And one of the things that if you're going to embody, the main thing is I don't consider myself an impersonator or impressionist. I'm an actor.
Okay.
So I have to use that terminology just to sell my services, but because if you say actor, it's too broad. But I'm an actor. I'm a trained actor. So when I'm playing Trump, and I mean this seriously, I'm playing him. I don't want to do a caricature. I want to be him. I want to get on stage to the point that I have removed every barrier to your ability to believe that I'm Trump on stage.
Yeah.
I want to minimize everything. That's why I'll spend $4,000 on a wig and a $100 tie and a $250 shirt that he wears and the same kind of watch and the same suits. And it doesn't matter for Austin Powers either. Whatever character I'm playing, Leno, Dr. Phil, Guy Fieri, I'll shave my head because I want this to be so real. I want you to have an experience. And as a performer, I want to kind of interlock with you. So you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that was the feeling we were getting. I mean, Madison, you remember when he was on stage doing the YMCA dance as Trump?
Me and Fobby were sitting about 2 tables apart from each other, and we kept looking back at each other, like, what is happening? Because you weren't part of the itinerary. That was
right. That was the secret.
Surprise.
Right.
So all of a sudden we're we've got these people that are coming up talking about the future predictions of the market, and then you've got the motivational speaker, and we've got the health, and then all of a sudden it was Donald Trump live in the flesh, which, by the way, just kind of touching back on mortgages, I think it was really, really important that we switched up the educational component to the comedy side of things, because let's be real.
I totally agree.
Right now, what's happening in the world is not funny, but the way that you're able to capture an audience and find something to connect with them on, whether it's comedy in a serious setting or comedy in an educational fashion, I just think it's really, phenomenal that you were able to capture an audience, and you really were. But between the mannerisms, the talking, the dressing,
oh, thank you.
You're the real deal.
And I'm a big proponent, and I do so many meetings, and sometimes I'll host a meeting. It'll be a multi-day meeting. What Christine did, I thought, was great, because you guys are getting so much content, so much information, and to bring me in as Trump, who ties into mortgage, building, financing, escrow, all those kind of things in a direct way, but be able to bring some comedy to it, bring some levity to it. And everybody knows that, humor, your attention goes up, your mind goes to a different place, and then back to the work that you guys were doing. I thought it was very smart on our behalf.
Do you see yourself as a comic though? Because you're look, I mean, it's going to come out wrong. No matter how I say it, it's going to come out wrong. I don't want to turn this into a Trump bashing thing, okay? But some of the stuff you said while impersonating Trump sounds like something Trump would say.
Oh yeah, and well,
you're trying to be funny, right?
I've been following Trump since about 1986, 1987. Oh, wow. The reason why was I was moving to New York, and I'd learned the history of the city and all that kind of, the 5 points and all those types of things. But I just wanted to know pop culturally what was happening. And the 2 names that kept coming up was Donald Trump and Leona Helmsley. And it was all the time. And then Trump opened in Atlantic City, and I started working in Atlantic City. And then I ended up working for him. I did a show at one of his properties, and that was 1990. And then in 1995, I co-hosted his 55th birthday. I did that as Austin Powers. And then a few years later, in 2004, I ended up working for him again. I supplied his voice at Trump Taj Mahal for the Apprentice game. So I had all these kind of weird connections to him. And the guy's just fascinating. He's a fascinating guy. And, as an actor, I like bigger characters. And I just kind of gravitated towards him because he was so interesting, and I got to meet him a number of times. And then once The Apprentice launched and I did that voiceover thing, I started doing full makeup. And Bob Kelly, who used to passed away, who built all the wigs for all the SNL shows and all the Broadway shows. He built my first wig, and actually it had already existed because it was the body doubles wig from the Trump commercial for the Visa debit card. So I even had I even had the wig, not this one, it's long gone, but I even had the wig from the Trump commercial. So I was really anytime I do anybody, if you'll see any of my characters, I really study the physicality. I really study, obviously, their speech patterns and the impression itself and all the vocal things. But I want to know how they think. I want to be able to do that character for 30 minutes without a script in front of him. And it doesn't matter who.
Does he know you impersonate him? Have you done it in front of him?
Oh, yeah. He's fully aware of me.
And he's totally cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was on Fox News over 50 times when on Red Eye, so he knows me. I've met a lot of people around him. Kellyanne Conway and I did a selfie together, and she was very complimentary. And she once again reaffirmed, like he said, he loves you. He thinks you're the nice Trump. So that was a few years ago. So
the nice Trump.
The nice Trump. Yeah, because I'm
oh
not like.
Goodness.
It's more about humor for me. I don't have a political agenda. And even if I did, I'm not going to change anybody's mind. So my job is a satirist is to do comedy, not to bang, it seems kind of silly.
There is a fine line between satire and comedy, isn't there? I mean, and people who don't understand that. I mean, I live in DC, so I get to feel that a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Living in the Beltway, that kind of crap, right? But people sometimes miss the beauty of satire.
Yeah, and satire goes back to the Greeks and the Romans. I mean, it's really kind of a very specialized, taking the bigger people that you know and satirize them and, having that irony about them. It's just, that's what I think is funny with his character. With something like Austin Powers, baby, it's totally different, baby, yeah. Or Dr. Evil, or me, Dr. Phil.
Now, let me this Dr. Phil voice you do, right? You were on a movie with Dr. Phil or something that I saw?
No, I played Dr. Phil, but I was opposite Kim Kardashian, so I got to work with Kim Kardashian. It was one of those parody films. I did a bunch of those. They were really popular at one point, but streaming kind of killed them. Yeah, Scary Movie. I worked with those guys, and then they went over and did a date movie, epic movie. I joined them on Disaster Movie. The other one was that I had a much bigger role in was Meet the Spartans.
Okay.
So I got to work with a lot of people on that film. And then I did, 30 days of Paranormal Nights, these titles. So you get to work with
what's your favorite character to impersonate?
What's that?
Is there a favorite character that you like?
Oh, yeah. I love doing Austin Powers. He's not my character, obviously. He's Mike Myers character. Like I perfected Trump, but I've done Austin Powers in Bangkok, Thailand. I've done him in Milan, Italy. I've done him in the UK. It doesn't matter where you do him. Like people love this character, and I think the reason is he's such a positive character. He's always so happy to see you. You're like, "Hello, Madison. You look smashing, baby. Yeah."
Like, how do you not laugh? Like, it just kind of takes away that. Well, so one of the things that I was going to say that I feel like we keep picking up on is this notion of the experience. Like, what experience are you giving your audience? And again, this is a mortgage podcast, so I'm going to keep it within the mortgage game.
Yeah,
but
sure,
for us, there's 1,001 loan officers out there, right? So how can we take this process that's daunting, vulnerable, difficult, a lot of emotions tied to it, and how can we create an experience that's different, relatable, and somewhat comedic? Because at the end of the day, if all of your emotions are negative emotions, you're going to be making decisions based off of high emotion versus, okay, let's break that barrier between the client and the loan officer. Let's have some humor in there. Let's have them have a better experience. And overall, isn't that going to do the same job that it would if we were just transactional and business-like? So what would you say, would you focus on in terms of the experience outside of comedy? what things are you kind of tapping into when you're getting into character? You know, again, thinking about even just the times of COVID, when it's a stuffy, weird time, people feel
Right.
very political, people have very strong emotions. How do you, you know, engage an entire audience, obviously, with something like politics?
Right. Well, I would,
Without
but for you,
offending.
yeah, that it's very, people are even more touchy now than they used to be. But what I was
Mhm.
going to, just to on a person to person basis, and this is something I talk a lot about because I believe in the currency of nice. And being a nice person. When you go to the supermarket and you're just checked out and you're kind of on your phone or whatever, that person behind that register has been working all day, 8 hours, dealing with people. It is the simplest thing we can do as a human is to connect with them and say, hey, how are you today? They'll give a perfunctory, hi, how are you? But if you can say something nice to that person and connect with them, not as a person with a name tag on, that I makes their day because you've reached out, you've taken 5 seconds to connect with another human. And I think that's really important to translate that. When I have to do photos after a performance as Trump or Austin Powers, it doesn't even really matter. I may have to do 150 people. I can't just go, okay, how you doing? Okay, next photo. Okay, how you doing? Every single person gets my undivided attention for that time. And it doesn't matter if I look at what they're, compliment what they're wearing or their hair or a button they have on or something. It shows that you're paying attention to that person. And like the simplest thing you can do is just ask where you're from. Because I've
Yeah.
traveled all over the world and all over the country and I've been a lot of places. So 9 times out of 10, there's a starting point, even for a short little conversation. And it may just be the way they spoke. And I notice a New York accent or a Texas accent or a, South Carolina accent, just some place that they know that you're actually listening and you want to connect with them, even though if you only have 5 minutes. Obviously, in the mortgage process, it's a lot longer. But people on the other side are just thinking this guy's just going through this. Or this woman's just going through this. Do they even know I'm really here? Or am I just a stack of paper to them? And that's like the most important thing I feel that you can do in any situation, like the currency of nice and the currency of connecting with people.
And that's pretty international, isn't it, John? I mean, because like you said, you've traveled the world. I've been around the world. Madison's been around the world. It seems like human beings at the core are the same.
Right. I agree that we all want the same thing. We want to be healthy. Our families want to be healthy. We want to live in a safe place with good leadership and we want to have a good job and all those things are pretty much the same. We want the best for our children. So I think at a very base level that we want the same things. Conversely, at the same time, one of the biggest things in human history in the last 25 years is social media, which kind of takes us out of all that, gives a lot of people anonymity to be mean and nasty and have no accountability. So the world seems a little more unsafe because these things are all swirling around us now that we've never had to deal with. It's also a huge time suck and distracts you from the things that are really important.
Do you think that with social media, though, the world has gotten faster and not really smarter?
100. And listen.
Right?
I think we may all listen to Anthony Robbins and a lot of the same people. And if if knowledge was the benchmark, we'd all have PhDs and doctors in front of our names, and we'd all be super successful. And we'd all be happy. Knowledge doesn't do anything. You have to be able to take the knowledge in. You're going to have to want to learn. You're going to have to want to change. And the world is getting faster because there's so many things drawing on our time that we think are important, that we think we have to be on Instagram, that we think we have to be on Facebook and all of these other platforms. I get sucked into it. But there's a point where you can shut it off or just schedule one day a week where I'm going to do my LinkedIn stuff on Sunday night or Monday morning. Everyone's checking their phones constantly. And it's like, you're not that important. You're not a doctor. There's no one on a death
No
watch.
one cares. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one cares.
No one cares. You know, but your people that you interact with, they care, and they know when you pick up your phone and do this. Yeah, no, we're you know what I mean? Nothing demoralizes people more than you not paying attention to them.
Fobby, your microphone is a little.
Yeah, you're.
No.
It's like your Wi-Fi is.
Oh, well, what I was going to ask you kind of on the social media while Fobby figures his stuff out. So obviously the other thing alongside experience that I kind of heard you kind of touch on a couple times with the themes was the adaptability, right? So you started writing, right? And you started doing these screenwrites, the copyrights and all that. And then maybe it shifted to this live audience. And then COVID hits. So now everyone's trying to re-navigate their business plan. You can't go in front of a large audience of people. So one of the things that I know you're big on now is Cameo and other social media.
Yeah, I really lucked out on Cameo.
So can you kind of, fill the audience in more about what, maybe it was COVID, or were you doing Cameo before it? Like what made you switch from, okay, instead of giving this experience to people?
Well, here, I was really lucky. I got in Cameo October of 2019, and people were telling me, like, you got to get on Cameo, and even I was like, no one wants to see an impersonator, they want to see the real thing. And they said, no, you'd be great. I was shocked. I've now done almost 1,580 cameos. I was actually shooting some this morning. So, but prior to that, I knew I wanted to put content out on YouTube. So I had some set designers come in and some set builders, and we built the White House press room set in my house. And I have a TV studio just for that, because I was also doing television in Australia, England, India, a bunch of other places. So I'm always trying to look down the road. One of the beauties of all of these platforms, specifically YouTube, you don't have to go to LA anymore to be an actor, or New York. You don't have to go to Nashville to be a musician. So when you do see trends happening, if you can, get ahead of them. So I built a green screen studio. I built the White House press room studio. I built an audio studio because I'm on Howard Stern and some other things. But small investments can go a long way. And if you can see something coming down the road, jump on it. If you're making a small investment, and it doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt. If you've made a small investment and it does work out, it's huge. That investment has paid off 100 times for me. And I think adaptability, because that's probably the best word, things are going to keep changing. There are literally thousands of people, not just here in the United States, but around the world, trying to figure out what they can create to change and disrupt everything we're dealing with right now. SteamYard, Zoom, Skype, Instagram. There was a point in history where none of that was happening. There was nobody working on that. A lot of these things happened by accident. Even Facebook was essentially not originally what it was going to be. So, and now you've got 1,000 Mark Zuckerbergs about to come out, and all these guys. So things are going to constantly be changing. And to go back to what you said, Fobby, things are moving faster because we have more people trying to change everything every single day of the week. And you're seeing even within the platforms, they're trying to change so they can keep up, so they don't lose.
Instagram's no longer a photo platform. It's now a video platform. Yeah. Facebook doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
Real quick, can you guys hear me now?
Yes. You sound great.
Yay!
Yeah.
I love JP. I love JP. See, he's our producer. You gotta see me. I'm not joking. Like Madison and I will do a show without him, and I'll fuck up like something, you know. So and here he's fixing the sound and from North Carolina, South Carolina, wherever he's sitting. I mean, thank you, JP. Appreciate you, brother. Anyway, listen. What I was going to ask you real quick was, you got like I think a few million followers on, is it Instagram or TikTok that you're big on?
On TikTok. On TikTok.
So you're like killing it on TikTok, which is the elite platform now, right? I just heard a business thing about them that they're going to hit $12 billion in ad revenue next year. I just think about that, right? 12 billion, and we're giving them the content to make that $12 billion. So
yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, are you able to promote on TikTok, or is it just collateral promotion?
It's more collateral, and you know, when my fiance, my wife to be, Michelle, really it literally is like takes so much time because she spots all the trends. She says, you know, when's the next time you're in Trump? Because we adopted Trump as the character. And it takes a lot of work. We'll shoot 5 of them, 3 of them hit, then we'll shoot 5 more. It takes a little more time. I do a character. It's not specific that it's Trump. I just do a character. So I'm wearing a mask. So it's a little harder for me to kind of leverage TikTok because they're all about authenticity.
I love that word.
And I'm playing somebody else. So we're trying to transition to have Trump, Austin, myself, Trump, Austin, myself. We're trying to make like a changeover so I can do more characters and then also be myself. We know a lot of TikTokers. I did a show here in Vegas for 6 months. It was all TikTok performers.
Yeah,
so I would come out and do.
For this one question, I think our audience crew I want to know. I asked you, I don't know, you probably talk to a million people a week, right? But do you ever dream like one of your characters? Like, do you ever find yourself thinking?
No, you know, they do pop up. I mean, they obviously pop up. There was a point during like the really busy part, like 15 and 16 were just insane. I was crisscrossing the country and going around the world. It was nuts. And when you're in a character for, 8-9 hours a day, I shot a TV series for like 3 weeks. You do start to think about the character. So like Trump's popping up in my dreams and weird you know what I mean? Because also you're trying to be creative and you're when you sleep, what's happening is you're consolidating memory. Yeah. And memory's being moved to different parts of the brain. So if I'm somebody else for 9 hours or even longer, that's going to come through there.
Yeah, because you told me that your fiancée said to you, like, hey, you were sitting watching TV, and she said, you look like Trump right now. I can't remember, some story you told me, like where you were just sitting there thinking while watching TV.
I was, because sometimes I'll think of a line, I'll be watching, about the raid, and like, which Trump? And Michelle's like, you're thinking in Trump. You're thinking in Trump because you'll see the grimace on my face and my hands start to move.
Like John's out the window, it's Trump brain.
Right, it's Trump brain. My brain moves over to that other portion. It's partitioned. It's the Trump section.
We are coming to the end, and Johnny, I want to make sure that our audience can get you. We're going to make sure that when we get into post-production, we'll put up all the links. But right now, it's cameo.com at the Johnny D Show. Right?
The Johnny D Show. Yeah. And you can find me pretty much on all the platforms at that, except the ones I couldn't adopt,
Yeah. I got to ask you this. I mean, with your cameo appearance, because my mic wasn't working then. I mean, what kind of car can you drive now that you do like a cameo star like that? I mean,
I would love to say something, but here's what I will say. Don't get divorced. That's what I will say. Don't get married and don't get divorced.
Yeah, like
because if you don't get married, you don't get divorced.
That's pretty logical.
Yeah, pretty logical.
If you were Trump now, by the way, you would say, I'm about to get my new ex-wife, Michelle.
Yes, my third ex-wife. I should be saying one word, prenup. One word. But I should have said that two marriages ago.
Well, Johnny, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show, Lavalin, and you finally, this is our 66th episode or 70th
Wow,
episode.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. Yeah.
And I saw, by the way, I saw your opening. You've got so many, like some of the people that I know. It's really amazing.
Well, we tried, but we haven't been able to bring any laughter. So when I saw you in Tampa, I was like, laughter, finally laugh, because I've been eating like a pig.
You're
on the
part of the
show.
laugh part of our podcast.
But
Not the lending, not the eating, the laughing.
You need somebody in your field to do a comedy, like 5 minutes of comedy on your business, on lending and escrow and all that
so
stuff.
it's funny you say that, because we have a spin-off for Little Madness here. Her nickname is Madness. She got in 3rd grade. It's called Laugh, Lend, and Eat Madness. So be careful with the apostrophe, we found out.
Yes, we're eating madness.
And she does a rant for 20 minutes about all the screwed up borrowers and people she runs into. And so it's you know what I mean? It's like her venting, and I don't charge her any psychological fees or whatever. So it works out pretty well for her too. But anyway, that's why I'm not
pretty much what we've adapted.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate
John,
it.
you're very generous with your time, and I want to thank you one more time for being on here. Once again, thank you for your presence. It's amazing.
Thank you.
All right, JP, get us out of here, my brother. Save us again.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of Laugh, Lend, and Eat, the podcast. You can now enjoy Fobby's article, Laugh, Lend, and Eat, featured in the Vision magazine. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where each month we are giving away some swag for our lucky listener to show off. Thank you to our sponsors for their continued support, First Option Mortgage and One Good One Recruiting. And remember, you have to be something, so be kind.